Hello, everyone, and happy post 4th of July.
And happy post-birthday, buddy.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, my liver hated me this weekend, but we ate some hamburgers.
Next weekend, too.
And maybe next weekend. Maybe. We'll see.
There's no maybe to it.
We ate some hamburgers, maybe had some glizzies, pasta salad. Yeah. Lit off some fireworks, went to the lake. It's good. It's a good weekend.
Good.
I hope everybody had a great 4th of July.
And a safe 4th of July at that.
No, that's no fun. Hopefully a few people had their fingers blown off.
All right, let's do it. Finger count. We're good.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Still got all 9. We're good.
Yep. Well, all right. So today, Caitlin Clark, WNBA All-Star voting. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Shai's new contract being very, very lucrative.
And also very giving at the same time.
Yep. We're going to talk about the rise in Achilles injuries in the NBA. And last but not least, a little bit of a flip of script here. We're going to talk about soccer. We're going to talk about the U.S. and Mexico Gold Cup final that happened last night at the time of this recording. So let's get into it.
All right. So starting off with the Caitlin Clark All-Star voting. So what is my issue when I put this on here with the Caitlin Clark All-Star voting? Well, Caitlin Clark was voted as a WNBA All-Star, obviously. She was voted as a WNBA All-Star starter. Here's my issue. The WNBA clearly, and this is talking about the players, clearly are still jealous and just cannot accept the fact. And I'm not even accepting the fact that you have to say Caitlin Clark is just God. You don't have to. I'm not saying that. But can we just appreciate the woman that's, upping help, or I won't even say the full, help upping women's basketball, driving in viewership, driving in tickets, driving jersey sales, driving in for the ability for the WNBA to expand to 2 other cities, because they're expanding to Cleveland and Detroit. And so here's my issue. So the way the WNBA does their All-Star voting is they have a fan vote, a media vote, and a player vote. So in the fan vote, go figure, Caitlin Clark was number 1 out of guards. All right, so these are just strictly out of the guards. So sorry, I should have specified that. But out of the guards, Caitlin Clark was voted number 1 by the fan vote. She was rated 3rd in the media vote, just behind Alicia Gray of the Atlanta Dream and Sabrina Ionescu of the New York Liberty. All right. Then we get to the player ranking, where she was voted 9th amongst her peers. The ninth best guard in the association, essentially, for the All-Star voting. We're talking about this. This is the same Caitlin Clark that as a rookie last year, going into the All-Star break, who was struggling when we did the women's USA team versus the WNBA All-Star team. The USA women's team were picking up double team full court Caitlin Clark. All right. We're talking about the same Caitlin Clark that is in the middle of controversy almost every game because somebody feels the need that they're going to, push, shove, do something to try to agitate Caitlin Clark. Maybe it's just me. You wouldn't do that if you really truly thought she was the 9th best guard at her position. All right. So I'm going to read you Caitlin Clark's stats. Now, her stats as far as among league leaders aren't being recognized right now because she's only played 9 games. She was injured earlier this year. So through 9 games, Caitlin Clark is averaging 18.2 points, which my calculation of going by the stat leaders, that would put her tied for 10th in scoring. All right. She's averaging 5 rebounds a game. That would put her around 30th in the league in rebounds. She is averaging 8.9 assists, which would put her 2nd in the WNBA in assists, and 1.6 steals, which would be tied for 6th in steals in the WNBA. Okay, so now I just read you her stats for the year. These are the women that the players voted ahead of her. Now, when I say these, I'm not saying obviously that these women don't deserve all-star nods, aren't having good seasons, none of that. Some of these, especially the first 2, you can 100% argue over Caitlin because of, obviously games played, everything, and all that. So the first one was Alicia Gray of the Atlanta Dream. She's averaging 19 points, 19.1 points, 5.7 rebounds, 4.1 assists. Sabrina this year is averaging, and I'll just start rounding up. She's averaging 19, 4, and 5. Okay. So now we get into Skylar Diggins, who was also voted above her, who's averaging 18, 2, and 6. Natasha Cloud, who's averaging 10 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists. All right. Now, Natasha Cloud plays for New York. Sorry, I should have stated that. She plays with Sabrina in New York. Also ranked above her, Paige Beckers by the player voting. Paige is averaging 19, 4, and 6 in her rookie year. Also ranked above her, her teammate, Kelsey Mitchell, who's averaging 19, 2, and 3 this year. Then we get to the last one, that is Brittany Sykes, who plays for Washington, who's averaging 18, 4, and 5. So if you want to make the argument to me that, you know, you voted for these, if you want to, if I didn't know prior to, if I knew nothing about the WNBA coming into this, and I went, oh, and you just said, hey, they voted this based on because Caitlin's only played 9 games this year. Okay, I could believe that. You know, I could say, you know, yeah, sure, you know, maybe she just hasn't played a certain amount of games. They just feel like other players have played all these games, deserve more of a nod. Sure. Unfortunately, though, I know what I know already, and I know that you're trying. I'm not saying they're going to try to keep Caitlin out of the All-Star game because you were never going to do that. But come on now, ninth best, really. So it's ridiculous. I mean, I don't understand why you don't want to gravitate towards somebody that's helping elevate your game. It's forever going to be a mystery to me whenever we talk about Caitlin on this show. I mean, you can make an argument, and I told you this a couple weeks ago, and I should have said it on a couple shows ago. I can make an argument right now that the face of basketball is Caitlin Clark, and that's basketball, men, women. Like, we're talking about the NBA needs a face of the league, and the face of basketball, you could make an argument is Caitlin Clark right now. So why are we not gravitating towards that? I don't understand. You know, again, if you're even if you don't like her as a player, if you're a player and you don't like her as a player, or you don't like her, sure. But by looking at media and fans that vote for her and love watching her, why would you not just at least embrace that part of it to try to get fans on your side to go, oh, okay, or use it as I've said on this show before too. Use it as your own platform to, you know, uplift yourself. Instead of just going in and doing all this obnoxious stuff of talking about Caitlin, pushing Caitlin, whatever. If I'm playing Caitlin Clark, all right, bet, watch me work. I'm going to go in there and try to make a fool out of her. Whether I can or not, I'm going to go in there and try to make a fool out of her on the court playing. So now if I get 16,000 people at a Fever game that watch me and I have a great game, they're like, oh, wow, maybe I should start paying attention to this person over here now. And this is how you grow. I just don't understand why people will not gravitate towards having with Caitlin growing helping grow the league. Why would you not gravitate toward this, and why are you pushing it away?
Yeah, on top of that, the more that they get on board, pretty much, and, you know, help make her the face, at least the face of the WNBA. And, you know, media
benefits you.
Do what?
The more it benefits you.
Right. Well, yeah, because, you know, the biggest thing with the WNBA is that they're not getting paid enough. But the only way you get paid enough is if the revenue is growing. I understand. I mean, it's still, I wouldn't say I guess it's not necessarily hate, but the dislike for Caitlin is still in the media a ton, and it is bringing publicity to the WNBA. Maybe we should try the flip of that and make it a little more positive, because I think that's going to help grow it faster than everything.
Because
else.
Now what it seems like is that the WNBA is just completely negative. Like nobody uplifts any. Like you go to the NBA, like everybody's a competitor at the end of the day. Now, are they as competitive maybe as we were back then? No. Are we a little bit more friendly now than they were back then? Sure. But if somebody's playing great, other players acknowledge that. You know, earlier this year, Shai and Ant, when they played in the regular season, Shai had like a great game. Ant's in his you know, Shai's just a great player. You know, I'm not saying you've got to go all that and, you know, but you don't have to go in and just start every chance you get to just talk shit, do whatever with Caitlin. Like, there has to be some uplifting a little bit. Like, there has to be. And here's the thing I've noticed. So last year when she came in, it was a lot of the older retired players that just wouldn't buy in. Now the retired players have bought in. They're pretty much all in on it now. So I could see where, as a league, if the people that brought us here, retired wise, aren't on board with you, I could see me going, okay, well, if they're not on board, why should I be? You know, I could see that. But when they're on board now, for the most part, why can we not change? Why are we just being stubborn and stuck in our ways?
They've never They haven't had a player like, I wouldn't say never. They haven't had a player like this in a long, long time. I mean, I'm trying to think going back who would
They've
be
had, so here's what I'll
close
say. They've had great players. Have
for
they
sure.
had players better than Caitlyn talent-wise? Sure.
Yes,
100% come
absolutely.
into the league. They haven't had a player as polarizing as
Right.
Caitlyn come into the league.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, everyone loves watching her play. And, attendance, we went through this last time we talked about Caitlin Clark. Attendance will tell you that. Every game that she plays, people want to go to.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't
she's
know.
selling out.
I'm hoping hoping these players just get on board. But it should, like, as an athlete, like especially a professional athlete, this should make you want to play better. Why but you don't have to bash them. But this should make you want to rise to the next level. Like, hey, these people are giving her credit, but let me show you what I've got.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I would be using this as all right, I'm going to show up Caitlyn now, but
Right.
as an on the court thing, not a
Yes.
talking, I'm going to do obnoxious things type thing. If I know you're going to guard me going into the game, all right, cool. I'm going to go out there and try to give you 30 then. Like I said, if you play good and you play well enough in front of 16,000 people that show up to watch Caitlin Clark play, it's going to make at least at bare minimum 1 or 2 people go, maybe I should start paying attention to her over here. And then that's how you start growing more eyes on your team. And then the domino effect goes on. So again, I just don't understand. It's literally bad business to keep shitting on her.
And whenever she comes back full throttle, and if they make a run somewhere in the playoffs or something like that, it's going to get worse.
Well, yeah.
I don't see it getting better
if
right now.
Caitlyn goes in the next, I'll go as far as to say 2-3 years. If she wins a WNBA title, I mean, the league can't do anything anymore with that.
No.
Like, what are you going to hate on at that point?
What else do I have to prove to you that I am the face of the league, basically?
But I will say, and everybody knows I've been a big Caitlyn. I'm a big Caitlyn supporter, Caitlyn fan. But I will say, and we can save this for a topic for another day once we get a little bit further. But there is a player that's on her way that's always been more talented than Caitlyn. She's just battled injuries her whole life, and now she's starting to be healthy consistently, and it's starting to show. And it's Paige Beckers.
Yeah, no, she's good. I like her game.
And Paige is already putting up Caitlin Clark numbers in the W right now as a rookie. So, and that's the thing. I think because Paige was injured or most of her college life, Caitlin took advantage of that, and rightfully so. Obviously, Caitlin took advantage of Paige not, because if you're the top dog on UConn, you're the top player in the country. Okay, normally, and
Most
as
likely.
far as it goes. So Paige being injured and having to deal with that, Caitlin took advantage of no star at UConn. Somebody the eyes had to be on somebody else. She took full advantage of it. And her game, does back it up as well. But Paige is coming. I'll tell you that. Moving on to the men's side of things. So we talked about Shai at the beginning. So Shai signed a new deal. For those that don't know, Shai Alexander signed a 4-year, $285 million extension with the Thunder, which now makes him the highest paid athlete among the 3 major sports, which is football, basketball, baseball. Now,
that's wild.
When I said at the beginning, and what is giving about it, is he was eligible, Doug, for the Supermax with his MVP season. He was eligible for the Supermax, which would have been good for $380 million. And he decided to take $280 million. And when they asked him why, he said he wanted to leave money behind for Chet and J-Dub.
It's pretty selfless.
So,
and he
if
wants
you're not,
to win more ships.
Yeah. Well, and he knows he's going to need, you can kind of fill in role players for the most part in the NBA. You can find guys that do the same thing on cheaper contracts for the most part, but he knows long haul thinking, I need J-Dub and Chet next to me for us to compete. So for him to leave money behind for them to make sure they still had money to give to them, selfless superstar.
Now, with that being said, the 4-year deal, if to save you the calculator, is 71.25 a year. That's insane. That's an insane amount of money to make in 1 year, even as an athlete. I mean, there's tons of, I guess, CEOs and stuff like that might make something more than that other ways. But I mean,
so with his new contract,
that's
his new contract kicks in as of 2027. That 4-year contract.
Okay.
So the first year on his contract, he's set to make 63.7.
Okay.
Second year, 68.8. third year 73.8 or 73.9. In the last year of his contract, he's scheduled to make 70 or 79 mil.
So that, but
So
that,
his deal's more back ended than it is front. It's made to
but that's okay.
save. It's made to save money on the front so that they can pay Chet and J-Dub, and he'll make the most money on the back end.
Yeah, no, I think how they structured that was perfect. Because isn't a supermax in that 5 years?
Yeah, he would have been good for 5 years, 380.
Yeah. I mean, good on him. I mean, you have to do that to keep a team around, like you're saying.
So think about this. So next year, so he has 2 years remaining on this remaining contract. So he goes next year, he makes 38.3. The year after that, 40.8, and he goes from 40.8 shot up to 63.7.
It's a pretty good jump.
Yeah,
I mean, he's worth it right now. He's worth that 68 right now. But
yeah, and so and all that money obviously is hit towards luxury tax apron. So it's going to be interesting to see, because we just saw a team like the Boston Celtics, who, because of this second apron rule that they made in the players agreement, teams are having to you're not going to see super teams, because you're not going to be able to pay them. So, and unfortunately, the way contracts go, contracts get more expensive every year. Every contract that's signed, there's a more expensive one right behind it. And so you're going to see more teams do what Boston did, where they're going to have a 3 to 4 year window where you got to try to go win as much as you can, and then you're going to have to blow it up. And quite honestly, it sucks. Like, if I'm a team like the Boston Celtics, who for the most part did it the right way, my core guys that I had, we drafted, and we made smart trades for guys like Drew Holiday and Derek White and then Porzingis. And now I'm going to be punished for that, because they're going to get paid. They need to get paid, and I'm not going to be able to pay them now because of this new rule. I don't agree with it at all.
I mean, so what do you think? You think they should?
I'm not saying you should be able to keep them, and that you should be able to pay, 5 supermax players, to keep on a roster. I'm not saying that just because, but there's got to be some way around. Like, if I make smart drafting Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, that's your core. That was the core of their championship.
Mm-hmm.
So I drafted those. Those are homegrown talents. I made smart, calculated trades for guys like Derek White, Drew Holiday, Porzingis. I feel like almost if you draft a player and they're staying, it should not almost count towards your second apron.
I like that. I think it's a good idea.
Because if they're staying in there and, they're willing to stay, why should I be punished because I drafted them and they're staying? I could see you doing it for the people you bring in free agency, trades, whatever, but homegrown talent, I should be getting some kind of like hometown discount for, and they're not, and it sucks. So,
yeah, I mean, maybe down the road they come up with something like that. Probably not, but I get what you're saying though. Not having those, not being able to keep everybody together for multiple years does suck.
You're not gonna have dynasties.
Like it was
anymore.
back in the day.
You're not gonna be able to have dynasties.
Yeah.
So, like I said, you're going to have a 3 to 4 year window of people's contracts, and that's all you're going to have. Sticking to the sport of basketball, and actually, ironically, sticks to the Boston Celtics, or pertains to the Celtics, because Jason Tatum tore his Achilles in the playoffs. We saw several players go down this year to an Achilles injury. Specifically in the playoffs, we saw Damian Lillard go down with an Achilles injury, Jason Tatum, and then we saw Halliburton, who just earlier was announced he's out all next year for sure. So here's what's really been grinding my gears, and Doug, we've talked about this. We've had several conversations our whole life about this, because we grew up playing basketball. I've heard several different conversations about why all of a sudden are we having so many Achilles injuries. And the main one I keep seeing pop up is people going, you all have to stop wearing low-top basketball shoes. And I'm like, that's not the cause.
Yeah,
that's not what's causing this Achilles injuries. We've had this conversation, and I actually looked it up online. So low-top basketball shoes can be safe for playing basketball. As research indicates, there is no significant difference in ankle injury rates between high top or low top. While traditionally high tops are thought to offer more ankle support, studies show that low tops can be just as safe, particularly when designed with features like good stability and traction. So it comes down to your preference when it comes to high top or low top. Low tops have nothing to do with an Achilles injury to me. And the other wild one I saw was, if you go back and look, Damian Lillard was wearing white tights under his short. Jason Tatum was wearing white tights. Tyrese Halliburton, white tights. We got to get these tights off people. Well, get the fuck out of here, dude.
No, that's
like, that has nothing to do with it. What it really has to do with, and I feel like I've said this before on here, it has to do with the amount of basketball people are playing prior to going to the NBA. AAU and the amount of games that kids play growing up and then into high school and then into college and then into the pros are why this happens. It's an overuse of your Achilles basically. And they're not I'm in NBA they probably get more rest than what they usually do. But when you get to the NBA, like playoff time, there's probably not much rest. You're going straight from, game to home to back into shoot arounds and practice. And then you're going to a workout and shoot arounds. And then you're going home and then you're back playing another game. There's no really rest and recovery phase. And like I said, you go to the AAU, you're going every weekend and you're playing 6-7 games potentially a weekend. And college, you're playing two times a week plus practice. Now, I did see one person say, and I maybe somewhat agree with it to an extent, and I don't know how much, because again, you're still using it, but I don't feel like people practice as much as we used to either. And I feel like that also has to do with a little bit of it. Most I've seen a lot of practices are just rolling a ball out and letting kids just scrimmage basically, and that's not practice. But again, you're still using the your Achilles. So I don't know how much that really goes into an effect, but I could see maybe not working out as much. You're not stretching as much. You're probably stretching before game and everything, but you're probably not stretching as much, prior to. Obviously, I'm sure majority of these NBA players are eating right and stuff. So, but
that doesn't have anything to do with it.
But I mean, yeah, the wear and tear prior to coming into the NBA is what I feel like is the biggest issue.
I think it's multiple factors. I think you're right. I think in the NBA, it is treated as a job, right? Like us, our 9 to 5s, they get up, they play ball, but they are not probably working as like they were in college or in high school or in AAU. So they're maybe not used to that volume and they're playing 82 games or whatever. So, and then you then count that's regular season, then you go deep into the playoffs, then yeah. But I think a lot of it has to do with the recovery aspect of what these players are doing because they're playing so much throughout the season and in Halliburton's case throughout the playoffs. They're probably not recovering how they should. And that could be decreased if they would eliminate some of the games in the regular season, which I think they should. Now, I think that's the main factor, really. These guys are in shape. It has nothing to do with really like, oh, they just were out of shape and they weren't ready for all this going forward. It's just pure volume. Like you're saying, it's overuse of what the Achilles is doing. But I think another couple factors that I've like kind of popped in my head was I don't necessarily think it's the high top, low top controversy in the shoe, but I do think it's how the shoes are made and what they're made of.
Yeah, if you're gonna use the low top, high top excuse, then yes, it's got to be what type of shoe.
I think there should be studies done on the players that have had their Achilles torn in the past. Like, what were those shoes made of? How were they designed? It could be all of that because, and for these primetime players, someone like I don't know, let's say LeBron goes out and tore his Achilles. Those shoes are designed for him, and other people just wear them. So that could be a factor. The other factor that I could think of is that maybe there was a change in how the NBA floors are made and what they put underneath them. If there's research done that there are a rise in Achilles injuries or lower body injuries, that could be something you look at because basketball floors are made differently. So I think it's a multitude of factors, but I think purely it's the volume.
I also feel like we go through, and it's really just sports in general. We kind of go through stretches where we have one specific major injury throughout a lot of sports. Like I feel like growing up in our time span of like when we first started watching sports to probably about 2013, 2014, I feel like we saw way more ACL injuries than we ever had in our life. And then, like the 2014 through, 2018-ish, it's when Achilles really started picking up kind of a little bit, but we saw more meniscus tears and concussions than we ever did. And then now it's Achilles. I feel like we just kind of go through phases and it just depends on obviously the person. But here's the other thing with low top and high top. And I saw people go, well, low top, you don't have ankle support. A lot of these players, because I did it especially in high school, but I also wore, yes, I wore high tops, but that was also my preference. LeBron's are my preference in shoes. those are mostly high top shoes for the most part. But and I've worn Kobe's, I've worn Kyrie's, I have a pair of Devin Booker's right now that are all pretty much low tops. So I don't have beef or anything against low top. But even with it, a lot of these players are getting their ankles taped up before games anyway. So they still do have somewhat ankle support, even with the low tops on.
Yeah, but the Achilles that's not going to prevent your Achilles from tearing.
So, but I was just talking about just from the support, just not Achilles specifically, but I was just talking about from the support standpoint of high top versus low top. Most of these people are getting their ankles taped up.
Well, I think what they really should do, and it should be a part of the recovery process, if you're not going to take away the volume for these people, these guys this is their livelihood. If you're not going to take away the volume of games, they need to put, and this is, I don't know the ins and outs of how it works on a team, but they need to put more effort in lower body recovery on top of imaging. They need to, especially your superstars, if you're protecting your asset. If I'm a GM, I want this guy looked at 24/7 to make sure. I just died. To make sure that he's in full health going into the later part of the season. You're going to make the playoffs. You got to be ready for that. Like, they can do MRIs on these people, X-rays for bone spurs, which are on the a growth, like a kind of a bone growth on the back of the heel that can also cause Achilles injuries. They can do this all the time. Now, these players, they might be offering that. Players might be like, I'm good. Like, but I think they need to make it
mandatory as
mandatory
weekly checkups.
Not like a full physical, but like for your lower body.
Yeah.
You're not going to have a lot of upper body tears.
Weekly, at some point, we are going to do an MRI on your ankle. We're going to do an MRI on your knee. Just make sure everything.
Yeah, that. And I would like to know how often these guys are changing out their shoes, because shoes have a life span.
Yeah, but I think they change shoes pretty much every game.
They could be superstitious.
I mean, they could be. But I would also argue that changing new shoes every game hurts you more than now wearing them for a certain amount of time. Yes, but
you're talking about practice, as well. So it's like, I don't know, but that is a point. Like the shoe integrity is now less because you've put too many miles on the shoe. Pure volume, because they're playing so many freaking games.
Yeah, I'd be willing to say, again, I mean, I don't know.
I would actually assume that they change their shoes out a lot, but that is something to keep in mind. Like for us normal athletes, you should change your shoes out no matter what you're doing, running, playing basketball, soccer, any sport. You should change what you're using after so many, I guess, hours.
So obviously there's not like a statistic on this.
Yeah, that'd be a little weird.
But this says NBA players frequently change shoes, with many changing them every game or after a few games, often due to shoe contracts or for comfort and performance. Some players, like Michael Jordan, reportedly wore a new pair of shoes every game. Others, like Klay Thompson, has said that he wears his shoes for about 12 games before changing them.
But I guess the
number of pairs used in a season can range from a few to over 50, with an average of around 50 pairs for a full 82-game season.
That's good. So for us random normals, we need to change our shoes out more frequently, because we don't do that, because we don't have people sitting in those shoes.
True. And we're not using them as often. We're only going our 1 to 2 times a week, But no, yeah, I agree.
Now that we're doctors, we should go ahead.
Yeah. I do think the shoes need to be looked at. What material is your shoe made out of? Because, I mean, you talk about superstition, like for a while there, and I know our buddy Brandon, I mean, I'm still the same. Our buddy Brandon was the same. Like, we wouldn't even buy Derrick Rose's. He had 2 knee injuries in a row, and we were like, no, can't do that.
I mean, I get it. They're made for him. But that was more.
But that's that's a superstitious. I can't do that. So but yes, you're right. Shoes are made for specific players and for that player only, and we just happen to buy them. So yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, shoes should be looked at. Now, Dame has his own signature shoe, so it's Dame's shoe, so he can look into that model maybe specifically of what was that made out of? Was there anything different from prior shoes? Tatum, same way. I don't think Halliburton has his own shoe, so I don't know what type of shoes he would have worn, but I'm sure that's what you're looking up right now.
It is.
But yeah, the integrity of the shoe should definitely be looked at as well. But again, I also agree with the weekly checkups. Why not? What does it hurt? every team has a doctor, every team has, people there on staff for that. Use
He
it.
does have a signature shoe.
Oh, he does? Who's it with?
Puma. They're
Okay.
called Puma. Hallie one.
Okay.
Like
So
Puma
there you go.
Hallies.
Look into the integrity of that shoe.
They look cool. They want to look good, but is it what you need it to be for non-injuries?
Even for those players, because I'm sure, I don't know how long he's had that shoe. So, I mean, that could only be the first or second model of that shoe. So, I mean, they still maybe couldn't have gotten it right for him. So,
Yeah.
there's also that. I don't know. I feel like for me, it's more of an overuse prior to coming into the NBA as to why you see more lower body injuries happen, like that at such a rapid rate.
I mean, I wonder what is the threshold for the NBA to be like, all right, let's do an investigation into this, like the NFL does for concussions. Yeah. Yeah, I know the concussion part of it. It was way worse.
Yeah, we're talking about brain trauma versus.
Yeah. No, well. I mean, no, really. Like Halliburton might not come back the same because of that Achilles.
People,
you know what I mean?
In all honesty, depending on the severity, I mean, you could have troubles walking the rest of your life after this.
Right. Obviously, yes, a brain injury is more significant, but that is the main injury in the game of football.
Yep.
So in the NBA, it's starting to seem like Achilles tears are
main injury.
Their main injury.
The Achilles tears are your sports concussions.
Yeah. So maybe the NBA should, and if they might be, I'm sure NBA has, resources to go do an investigation if they want to send somebody on a wild goose chase. But yeah. So we are not doctors, make that clear. We are wannabe podcasters, and
we are not doctors, but I'm telling you right now, if I see it on the screen, I can spot an Achilles tear.
Yeah. I can show you what it looks like with a rubber band.
Yep. So for all them people that sit around me when I'm like, yeah, he tore his Achilles, they're like, oh, I just love how you just know that. Yeah, because I can literally watch it pop in his calf.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's actually probably the most prominent sports injury
to be able to visibly see.
Yeah, other than like a bone being broken, which I've seen those too. So, all right. So last but not least, we're flipping the script a little bit here to soccer. U.S. lost to Mexico last night in the Gold Cup finals. It was 2-1. And the reason I bring this up is that Mexico is back-to-back champs for the Gold Cup. The World Cup is coming up next year, right? I believe it's next year.
Yep, next year.
So, and the whole controversy I've always seen is that the U.S. can never compete with other countries. And it's going to stay that way if players don't, I'm not saying take it more seriously, or not just players, but the infrastructure around soccer doesn't grow.
Yeah, soccer in America isn't taken seriously.
Well, there are players that take it seriously. We do have really good. I mean, MLS has grown quite a bit.
As a whole.
Yeah, but I mean, you're talking like Messi playing in the MLS, but he's not American.
Right.
I mean, he's still one of the best players in our league. But these kids do nothing but from birth is live, breathe, eat this. But school wise and travel team wise, there's the infrastructure. Like, well, I'm saying it like that is because it's just not there like it is for a baseball, a football, or a basketball sport, right? The U.S. is going to have to totally change something to get to the point of, hey, we're going to compete with any European team, or I mean, really the rest of the world. I mean, it's just, and we're big enough. We're a big enough country to be able to do that. But it's just always been a back burner. It's just no one wants to put the time and effort in to make it what it should be. I mean, the World Cup is the most watched sporting event that you'll ever see.
True.
Because of the outreach, right? But I mean, how many times have you watched an MLS game?
I can't even tell you because I know the answer for the most part. MLS isn't even on TV, like on regular TV for the most part.
I think they have a contract with Apple TV Plus or whatever. But
you're talking about just people with basic TV can't watch that.
No, it's just if it's not gonna be like it stems from the kids, right? Our youth are watching what their parents are watching. You know what I mean? And two, what they see, what they have access to.
Yep.
So that's part of it.
A good example of that is look at what basketball in other countries is doing. Like for the longest time, it was nobody was ever going to touch America, and when it came to basketball. Now, all of a sudden, basketball became global, and now all of a sudden we just watched the NBA draft 2 weeks ago, and I could probably count 6-7 players that went first round from France. Like, you start because basketball's now became, global. It's now on their TVs over there where they can watch it. And now you're watching people say, well, that's what I want to do. And they're working towards it. And now we have a legitimate fear of potentially losing gold medal the next time we go to the Olympics as far as USA basketball.
Yeah. So, and soccer's point
could be the same thing over here.
We need to do the same thing over here. Like I played, that was my main sport. I played it most of my life. And, it was always considered a sissy sport, right? No, but that was because most people didn't understand what was going on.
Yeah.
But soccer players are one of the better athletes out there based on what they're doing on
their conditioning level is on another
top
world.
Notch. It's up there for sure. Well, that's why you see like players like Steve Nash. They played it growing up because it helps with their footwork with other sports. Kobe did it. He would go because he lived overseas and was so prominent over there that he was like, well, I'm going to give this a try. We have to make it a more mainstream sport if we ever want to compete at a high level in the World Cup. And I think that's disappointing because of the type of, the country we are. We want to be the best at everything.
That we've lost sight of other things because we're focusing on other things.
Well, just basketball is going to be what it is.
Yeah, basketball ain't going away.
The NFL owns everything, football. So let's put some effort. I don't know how this even starts, but I'm sure there's people out there way smarter than us that can come up with great ideas. But
you can start by just putting them on your average TV.
Start is let's put them on TV. Let's get it out there. Let's let the kids watch what's being played out there.
Because think about this. Think about how many kids, just play soccer as kids because their parents just put them in it. And like you said, now it's not on TV. So, but they play other sports. They're watching baseball, football, basketball.
Right.
So
they're like, well, Mom, I want to do that.
They're like, well, I can make money doing that growing up.
Right.
Well,
that's the dream.
And they quit soccer.
Yep.
Also another thing, think about how many soccer players quit soccer to go be a kicker in football. Like they just quit soccer because they're like, I don't see anything with this.
Yeah, and there's tons of leagues like soccer overseas, like not in the U.S. Professional leagues. Now it's growing with the USL and all that. Like I'm saying, it's made strides for sure, but but there's more. Like if you go overseas, there's more leagues you can play in. There's more of a chance that you can actually play at a professional or semi-professional level and make your way up. But I mean, it's competitive. I mean, you're talking the entire world. A lot of people play soccer, but I don't know, man. I want the U.S. to be good. And I mean, I can't even tell you, like, I don't have like an MLS team that I watch. You know what I mean? Like my favorite team is Manchester City, European team.
So most people that actually watch soccer, that's all they have their,
but like I'm even part of it. Like I should be having an MLS team trying to watch an MLS game. It's just not there. And
which is also kind of wild because you would thought, or you would think with just somebody like Messi coming over to the MLS, you would think, okay, we need to put this on TV, this is big, but they never did.
I mean, I get
it, TV has gone to more streaming, so I understand doing the, with Apple TV and everything, but like make it more for everybody. Not everybody wants to pay for Apple TV. Nobody,
So the MLS season is played from late February through mid-October. So it's like the heart of football and basketball season. And it's like
compete with. You're
not going to compete with that TV wise. So maybe they change when they play.
Yeah. I think it'd be easier. Again, it'd still be hard, but it's easier to compete with baseball than it is with football and basketball.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
So
yeah, and soccer's fun to watch. Like when you understand what's going on, and it doesn't take that long. I mean, the games are only 2 hours, so it's like unless it goes in, there's gonna be there's always gonna be extra time, and it may go into PKs, but probably not. It can always end in a tie, which people hate. But but like maybe they need to play in a different season where they can compete with baseball only and not have to compete with the NFL, the NBA, college sports. I mean, it's just. You're just not gonna do it.
You're not gonna win that battle.
Yeah.
Anyways, you do have an American team you go for. We're Lou City fans.
Well, that's USL, but yeah, yes, hey. We might be in MLS the next few years. I could see us being in there. We have everything. We have everything the MLS wants for sure. The one professional team we get.
Yeah, and it's crazy that if you'd have told me 10, 15 years ago, but what if Louisville got a professional team? What would it be? I would have told you. It's either going to be baseball or basketball that we'd get a professional team in. And now it's very well could be soccer.
We'll see. Only time will tell. But we're gonna probably suck in next year's World Cups. Oh well. Always the next one. 4 years. Anyways, okay. Well,
And
I
it's
think
gonna
that does
sting even more because it's here next year.
right. Like everybody's been like, I've been waiting for this for 10 years for the World Cup to be back somewhere close
Yeah.
because I will be going to games, and hope
It stings when your home country.
I'm
can't.
hoping the U.S. makes it in because you have to qualify. We'll see. But yeah, this does it for us. Hopefully, everybody enjoyed this episode.
Again, we are not doctors, by the way.
We are not doctors. If you would like to take our advice as non-doctors, please do that.
We just try to give the best advice based off the research we make.
Yes, that is our disclaimer. Fine print. If Clucas wants to get funky with the editing, he can speed it up as like they do in the medicine commercials. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and everybody enjoy their day. Peace.